In the heart of a rundown urban park, on a crisp autumn afternoon, 8-year-old Lily sat alone on a weathered bench, her small frame hunched over, as silent tears carved paths down her cheeks. The park was alive with the usual bustle, joggers pounding the paths, distant laughter from a group of teens tossing a frisbee, vendors hawking hot dogs from carts, but no one spared her a glance. She clutched a crumpled drawing in her lap, a childish sketch of her mom smiling in their tiny apartment, now tainted by fear. Lily's dark curls were matted from running, her sneakers scuffed from the frantic dash out of the building that morning. The gang had come again, their shadows looming in the hallway like monsters from her nightmares, banging on doors and shouting threats. "Pay up or get out," their leader had snarled at her mom, a single mother working double shifts at the diner. Lily had hidden under her bed, heart pounding, until the noise faded but the terror lingered. Now, with school canceled for the day and her mom too scared to leave work early, Lily had wandered here, hoping the open air might chase away the suffocating dread. She wiped her nose on her sleeve, whispering to the drawing, "Mommy, it'll be okay, it has to be." But deep down, she knew it wasn't. The rent was late, the threats were escalating, and the police? They'd shrugged it off last time, saying they were understaffed for petty disputes. Lily felt invisible, just like the faded graffiti on the park's brick wall behind her. There one day, ignored the next. Across the path, under the shade of a sprawling oak, sat Marcus Hale, a man in his mid-40s whose broad shoulders and salt-and-pepper beard gave him the look of someone who'd seen too much. He nursed a black coffee from a thermos, his eyes scanning the park with the kind of vigilance that becomes second nature after years in combat zones. Marcus was a retired Navy SEAL carrying invisible scars from his tours in Afghanistan. During his final deployment in Kandahar, a local gang working with the Taliban had ambushed his convoy in a crowded market. The attack had been brutal and calculated, RPGs and automatic fire targeting what should have been a routine patrol. In the chaos, Marcus had lost half his platoon, including Jake, the unit's joker with lightning reflexes, and Ramirez, their medic, who'd patched up Marcus countless times. The ambush had been orchestrated by cowards who preyed on the innocent for profit and territory. The guilt of surviving when his brothers didn't had driven Marcus to retire from active duty. Now he lived quietly in a modest brownstone nearby, filling his days with freelance security work and trying to outrun the ghosts of fallen friends. But today, something pulled his gaze to the little girl. Her soft sobs, almost drowned by the wind-rustling leaves, hit him like a punch to the gut. Memories flashed of Afghan villages, where children like her had begged for help amid chaos, their pleas too often ignored. Marcus set down his thermos and approached, keeping his steps deliberate and non-threatening. He stopped a respectful distance away. "Hey there, kiddo," he said, his voice gravelly but gentle. "You look like you could use a friend. Mind if I sit?" Lily startled, eyes wide and red-rimmed. She scooted over, clutching the drawing tighter. This man didn't look fancy, just faded jeans, a worn navy hoodie, and work boots. But something about his steady blue eyes reminded her of heroes in comic books. "Everyone's ignoring me," she whispered. "Like I'm not even here." Marcus nodded slowly. "Parks can be like that. But I'm here now. What's got you so upset?" And then it all poured out. The gang that had taken over their building, terrorizing tenants and demanding protection money. How they'd threatened her mom that morning, giving them until dawn to pay or face eviction. How the police had come once but left, after just talking. "I'm scared they'll hurt her," Lily finished, fresh tears welling. "I didn't know where else to go." Marcus's jaw tightened. This was different from Afghanistan, but the poison was the same. Bullies preying on the innocent. He placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "What's your address, Lily?" After getting the details, he stood. "You did the right thing, telling someone. Come on, let's get you home safe." Walking Lily back to Elm Street, Marcus noted the tactical details automatically. Sightlines, escape routes, gang colors marking territory. The complex was worse than he'd imagined. Boarded windows, graffiti tags claiming ownership, and the unmistakable atmosphere of a place under siege. At the crumbling high-rise, Lily pointed to a third-floor window. "That's us. Will I see you again?" Marcus crouched to her level. "Count on it." And if those guys show up, you call my name as loud as you can, okay? I'll be around. As Lily disappeared inside, Marcus lingered, watching. Within minutes, he spotted them. 3 gang members lounging by a graffitied wall, bandanas marking their allegiance, eyes tracking every person who entered or left the building. This wasn't just extortion, it was occupation. Back home, Marcus pulled out his phone and scrolled to a group chat labeled Ghost Squad, his old SEAL unit. He typed, "Brothers, gang operation terrorizing families in my neighborhood. Kids involved. Sound familiar? Who's available for some community service?" The replies came fast. "On my way, Hoot. Bringing the toys. For kids? Always." That evening, Marcus's living room became a command center. Elena Sparks Vasquez arrived first, the unit's former communications specialist, now a cybersecurity expert. Her dark hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and she carried her digital arsenal in a weathered duffel bag. "Heard about the little girl," she said, pulling Marcus into a quick hug. "Reminds me of my sister Carmen. She got trapped in a bad situation with an abusive boyfriend last year. Took months to get her out safely." Elena's jaw tightened. "These predators, they're all the same. They find vulnerable people and exploit them." She immediately got to work on her laptop, running facial recognition on social media. These punks love posting their flex. Within minutes, she had results. Leader is Rico Valdez, mid-20s, multiple priors for extortion and assault. "But this is bigger than I thought, Marcus. They're not just hitting one building. They've got a network, at least 4 complexes under their control." Tommy Ghost Riley showed up next, the unit's former sniper, now a private investigator. His hulking frame filled the doorway, and his ginger beard couldn't hide the scar running along his jawline from Kandahar. He dropped a bag of equipment on the table with a heavy thump. "Lost my nephew to gang violence 2 years ago," Tommy said quietly, his usual jovial demeanor replaced by cold determination. "Kid was just walking home from school when he got caught in crossfire, 15 years old." He opened his bag, revealing an array of surveillance equipment. "These animals think neighborhoods are their hunting grounds. Time to show them what real hunters look like." Doc Harlan arrived last, their former medic, his prosthetic leg barely slowing him down. Despite everything he'd been through, his weathered face still carried traces of the humor that had kept them sane during their darkest days overseas. "So we're playing Neighborhood Watch?" Doc asked, but his tone was serious. "Good. Been too long since we did something that mattered. These gangs, they're like an infection. You don't treat it. It spreads and kills the whole organism." Marcus spread building blueprints across his coffee table, public records he'd pulled from the city database. "Here's what we're dealing with. Rico's crew has turned these 4 buildings into their territory. They're collecting protection money, dealing drugs, and anyone who resists gets beaten or evicted." Lena pulled up her laptop screen, showing a network diagram. "I've been monitoring their communications. They've got lookouts, scheduled collections, even a hierarchy. This isn't street-level dealing. It's organized crime." "What's the plan, Hoot?" Tommy asked, using Marcus's old call sign. Marcus pointed to different locations on the map. "Multi-phase operation. We don't just hit them once and hope for the best. We dismantle their entire network. Phase 1. Reconnaissance and psychological pressure. Phase 2. Hit their secondary operations. Phase 3. Final takedown." "Rules of engagement?" Doc asked. "Non-lethal, but not non-violent," Marcus replied. "We document everything for the cops, but these guys need to understand there are consequences for terrorizing families. We go in dark, leave no trace except fear." Phase 1. The Watchers become the watched. The next morning, Rico Valdez woke up to find his car wouldn't start. The engine cranked but never caught. And when he popped the hood, he discovered someone had removed a handful of critical fuses. Nothing damaged, nothing stolen, just disabled. "What the hell?" he muttered, calling his lieutenant Carlos. But Carlos's phone went straight to voicemail. In fact, all his boys' phones seemed to be having, quote, network issues. From a rooftop 3 blocks away, Elena smiled at her signal jamming equipment. "Phase 1, boys, making them paranoid." Meanwhile, Tommy had positioned himself with a clear view of the gang's primary hangout, a corner bodega they used as an unofficial headquarters. Through his scope, he watched Rico arrive on foot, clearly agitated. Tommy's laser pointer danced briefly across the window next to Rico's head. Just a red dot that appeared for a second and vanished. Rico spun around, scanning the streets. Nothing. But the message was clear. You're being watched. Over the next 3 days, the gang's routine fell apart. Cars broke down mysteriously. Phones lost signal at crucial moments. Surveillance cameras around their territory went dark one by one. Gang members started looking over their shoulders, jumping at shadows. Someone's messing with us, Carlos told Rico as they huddled in the bodega's back room. My car, your car, even Javier's bike. All dead. And these phone outages, it's not a coincidence. Rico's paranoia spiked. Could be rivals moving in on our territory. Double the lookouts. Nobody moves alone. From his listening post, Marcus monitored their communications through Elena's hacking. The gang was fracturing under pressure they couldn't identify or fight back against. Perfect. Sarah's struggle. While the Ghost Squad worked in shadows, Sarah Martinez fought her own battle. The gang's pressure had intensified after their morning visit. Every day brought new demands. Not just money, but favors. They wanted her to store packages in her apartment, to keep watch for police activity, to recruit other tenants into their protection scheme. I won't do it, she told Rico during another confrontation in the building's lobby. Other tenants scattered like roaches, afraid to be seen supporting her. Rico stepped closer, his breath reeking of cigarettes and menace. You think you got a choice? Lady, you're in our house now. You play by our rules, or you find somewhere else to live. And trust me, we know people in all the other buildings around here. Sarah's hands shook, but she stood her ground. This is my home. My daughter's home. We're not going anywhere. Your daughter. Rico smiled coldly. Pretty little thing. Be a shame if something happened to her on the way to school. That night, Sarah barely slept. She checked the locks 3 times, pushed furniture against the door, and kept Lily close. The next morning, she called in sick to work, the first time in 2 years, too afraid to leave Lily alone even with the neighbor watching her. From across the street, Marcus observed Sarah's building through binoculars. He saw Rico's crew increase their patrols, saw the way other tenants scurried past with downcast eyes, saw Sarah appear briefly at her window, looking haggard and defeated. Time to escalate, he told the squad that evening. They're tightening the screws. We move to Phase 2 tonight. Phase 2, hitting where it hurts. Elena's research had revealed the gang's financial operation, a stash house 2 miles away where they counted money and stored drugs before distribution. It was lightly guarded, seen as secondary to their territory control, but it was the heart of their cash flow. At 2 a.m., the Ghost Squad moved like shadows through the industrial district. The stash house was a converted warehouse with minimal security, just 2 guards who spent more time smoking and playing cards than actually watching. Tommy took position on a neighboring rooftop while Marcus, Elena, and Doc approached from 3 different angles. Elena's drone provided overwatch, its camera feeding real-time intel to their phones. 2 targets inside, ground floor. Cash counting operation confirmed. Elena whispered through their comms. Doc approached from the rear, his medical training having taught him how to move silently through any terrain. He reached the back door and began picking the lock with tools that hadn't seen action since Iraq. Meanwhile, Marcus and Elena flanked the front entrance. The guards were so focused on their card game they never noticed the shadows creeping through the poorly lit lot. The takedown was surgical. Doc entered from the rear just as Marcus came through the front. The 2 guards looked up from their cards to find themselves facing a mountain of a man whose prosthetic leg hadn't slowed him down one bit, and a scarred veteran whose eyes promised violence if they moved wrong. "Evening, gentlemen," Doc said conversationally. "Don't reach for anything stupid, and we'll all go home happy." One guard started to stand, hand moving toward his waistband. Marcus was on him instantly, a chokehold dropping him unconscious in seconds. The other guard raised his hands, suddenly very cooperative. Elena's fingers flew over the warehouse's computer system, downloading financial records and communication logs while copying hard drives. The operation took 12 minutes. They zip-tied the conscious guard, left the unconscious one cable tied to a chair, and departed with over $80,000 in cash, and enough digital evidence to build a federal case. But they weren't done. Tommy, still on Overwatch, watched 3 more gang members arrive just as the squad was leaving. Perfect timing. The arriving gang members found their guards bound and gagged, their money gone, and a simple message spray-painted on the wall: "Stop terrorizing families." Rico's phone exploded with calls. His stash house, his money, his drugs, his financial records, all gone. But worse than the theft was the message. This wasn't a rival gang making a move. This was someone with a personal stake in his territory operations. They knew exactly what they were looking for. Carlos reported, his voice tight with panic. Took the computers, the cash, left everything else. Professional job. Rico's paranoia transformed into rage. "Find out who did this. Check every damn camera in the neighborhood. Someone's gonna pay." But the Ghost Squad had been careful. No faces on cameras, no fingerprints, no evidence except the lingering fear that someone was watching. Someone was coming. The psychological pressure intensified. Gang members started carrying more weapons, looking over their shoulders constantly. Their drug operations slowed as they focused on security. Most importantly, they pulled resources away from the residential buildings to protect their remaining assets. For the first time in weeks, Sarah noticed the gang's presence at her building had decreased. She saw Lily smile at breakfast, heard her humming while getting dressed for school. Maybe, just maybe, things were getting better. She had no idea how much better they were about to get. Phase 3, the reckoning. 2 weeks after the stash house hit, Rico's operation was crumbling. His cash flow was disrupted, his crew was jumpy, and his reputation on the street was taking a beating. Desperate to reassert control, he decided to make an example. Sarah became his target. "We're done playing games," Rico told his remaining crew as they gathered in the basement of Lily's building. "That woman thinks she can disrespect us, and now someone's hitting our operations. Time to show everyone what happens when you don't pay up." Carlos shifted nervously. "What do you want to do?" "Tomorrow morning we visit the apartment. Mom's at work, kids at school. We trash the place, leave a message she can't ignore. And if she still won't cooperate..." Rico's smile was cold. "Well, kids have accidents all the time." What Rico didn't know was that Elena had been monitoring their communications all along. The moment the threat against Lily was made, the Ghost Squad moved into final phase. "That's it," Marcus said, his voice carrying the cold finality of a man who'd reached his limit. "They just threatened a child. Gloves come off." This time, there would be no subtle psychological warfare, no midnight raids on secondary targets. This was direct action, and Rico's crew was about to learn why you don't threaten children in a Navy SEALs operational area. The squad geared up with military precision, tactical vests under dark clothing, zip-tie restraints, tasers, and body cameras to document every moment. Elena positioned her mobile command center 2 blocks away, her screens showing feeds from drones and hacked security cameras throughout the building. Tommy took position on the rooftop across the street, his sniper training now focused on providing overwatch for his brothers rather than eliminating targets. Doc carried a medical kit along with his restraint equipment. He hoped it wouldn't be needed, but experience had taught him to prepare for everything. Marcus led from the front, as he always had. The building's rear entrance yielded to his lockpicks in seconds, and the Ghost Squad flowed through corridors like deadly smoke. They reached the basement to find Rico's entire crew gathered. 6 gang members, including Rico himself. Weapons visible on tables. Money and drugs spread out like a twisted parody of a business meeting. 6 targets confirmed. Elena's voice whispered through their earpieces. All armed, recording everything. Marcus gave the signal, and hell came calling. Tommy's laser sight danced across the basement's single window. Not a threat, but a distraction. As heads turned toward the red dot, Doc came through a maintenance access that Elena had identified during her research. The first gang member went down to a taser before he even knew the fight had started. Marcus and Elena breached from opposite sides of the main staircase, moving with the coordination of soldiers who'd fought together in the world's deadest places. A second gang member reached for his gun and found Marcus's fist connecting with his solar plexus, driving the air from his lungs and the fight from his body. Rico spun toward Elena, pulling his weapon, but she was already moving. Her taser caught him center mass, electricity dancing through his body as he collapsed, muscles locked in spasm. The gun clattered harmlessly across concrete. The remaining 3 gang members had weapons but no training. They'd never faced an enemy that moved like smoke and struck like lightning. Carlos swung a baseball bat at Doc, who stepped inside the swing and delivered a nerve strike that dropped the bat and its wielder. Another gang member fired wild, his shot going high and wide before Tommy's precision shot, a tranquilizer dart fired through the window, put him to sleep. The last one tried to run, charging toward the stairs where Marcus waited. A perfectly executed takedown sent him sliding across the floor, zip-tied and neutralized before he'd traveled 5 feet. 6 gang members, neutralized in under 3 minutes. No permanent injuries, no fatalities, but a very clear message delivered. Rico, still twitching from the taser, looked up at Marcus through pain-glazed eyes. Who are you? Marcus knelt beside him, his voice carrying the weight of every brother he'd lost, every family that had been threatened, every child who'd cried in fear. We're the people who show up when bullies go too far, he said simply. You threatened a little girl. That was your mistake. Elena's voice crackled through the comms. Police, ETA, 4 minutes, time to go. The ghost squad vanished into the night, leaving behind 6 zip-tied gang members, and enough evidence to put them away for years. Body camera footage, audio recordings of threats, weapons charges, drug possession, extortion evidence. The DA would have everything they needed for slam-dunk convictions. But more importantly, they left behind something else. Proof that monsters could be stopped, that heroes sometimes did show up, and that even in the darkest places, hope could take root and grow. Dawn broke over Elm Street with the sound of sirens and the sight of police cars surrounding the building. Officers found Rico's crew exactly where the ghost squad had left them, along with a flash drive containing months of evidence documenting their crimes. By noon, local news was calling it the gang roundup of the year. Rico and his lieutenants faced federal charges thanks to the interstate nature of their drug operation. The remaining crew members, faced with overwhelming evidence, began cooperating with prosecutors in exchange for reduced sentences. For the first time in months, Sarah looked out her window and didn't see gang members lurking by the building entrance. The graffiti tags that had marked the territory were being painted over by volunteer community groups. Children played in the courtyard without fear. That afternoon, there was a knock at Sarah's door. She opened it to find Marcus standing there with a bag of groceries and 3 companions. Heard you might need some help settling into the new peaceful neighborhood, Marcus said with a gentle smile. Elena stepped forward with her tablet. I've been tracking the court proceedings. Rico's looking at 15 years minimum, and his organization is completely dismantled. Tommy carried a toolbox. Thought I'd fix that leaky faucet and maybe install some better locks. You know, just to be thorough. Doc held a potted plant and wore his characteristic grin. For luck, and to celebrate the fact that little girls can sleep safely in their beds again. Lily appeared at her mother's side, her eyes bright with recognition. You came back! You said you would! Marcus knelt to her level. I always keep my promises, kiddo. How are you doing? Good, Lily beamed. I drew you a picture. It's you and your friends as superheroes. She ran to get her drawing, a child's interpretation of 4 figures in capes standing protectively around a building full of happy families. At the bottom, written in careful 8-year-old script, thank you for keeping us safe. Marcus felt something shift in his chest, a loosening of the knots that had bound him since Kandahar. For the first time in years, the ghosts of his fallen brothers felt less like accusations and more like approvals. 6 months later, spring had transformed Elm Street completely. The complex now boasted fresh paint, new security systems, and window boxes bursting with flowers that Elena had helped the residents plant. What had once been a monument to urban decay had become a thriving community. Sarah had been promoted to assistant manager at the diner after her story became local news. Single mother stands up to gang terrorization, read the headline, though the article never mentioned the mysterious anonymous tip that had led to the gang's arrest. Lily's artwork covered the refrigerator in their apartment, drawings of families, flowers, and occasionally 4 guardian figures watching over a peaceful neighborhood. Her nightmares had stopped completely, replaced by dreams of playgrounds and birthday parties. The Ghost Squad had become unofficial neighborhood watch leaders, their military skills now focused on community building rather than combat operations. Tommy organized youth sports leagues to give local kids alternatives to street life. Elena ran computer literacy classes for elderly residents. Doc volunteered at the community health clinic. Marcus had found something he'd never expected after leaving the military. A sense of home and purpose that didn't require a weapon or a uniform. The apartment 2 floors down from Sarah and Lily had become available, and he'd moved in without hesitation. On a warm Saturday afternoon, the complex courtyard filled with the sounds of a block party. Balloons decorated lampposts, grills smoked with Tommy's barbecue expertise, and Elena's drone entertained children with aerial acrobatics. Lily, now 9 and radiant with confidence, ran up to Marcus as he manned one of the grills. "Marcus, guess what? Mom says you're coming to my birthday party next month." "Wouldn't miss it for the world, kiddo." She hugged his leg with characteristic fierceness. "Promise?" "Promise." As the sun set over the transformed neighborhood, painting everything in golden light, Marcus felt the last of his ghosts settle into peaceful rest. The war in Afghanistan would always be part of him, and his fallen brothers would never be forgotten. But their sacrifice had meaning now in ways he'd never imagined. And the laughter of children who slept safely, in the strength of a community that had learned to protect itself, and in the simple truth that sometimes heroes are made not in the heat of battle, but in the quiet moments when someone chooses to answer a little girl's plea for help. Rico and his gang had learned too late that some neighborhoods have guardians. And sometimes, those guardians are ghosts who found new purpose in protecting the innocent and building something worth defending. The Ghost Squad's greatest mission wasn't one they'd trained for in military schools or foreign battlefields. It was written in crayon by a grateful child and lived out in the daily rhythms of a community that had found its courage. And in a small apartment overlooking a peaceful courtyard, a little girl fell asleep without fear, knowing that somewhere nearby her guardian angels were watching over them all.